Yeah, that'd be good. I mean, Meemaw Florence was DRT, and I'm been working on my SRT application with Judge Byrd, and I'm going to their meeting this Saturday morning at Ricky Walker's house.
Yeah.
And I mean, I want to know everything. You may have to pull up a little bit. I'm afraid this door is going to hit the curb.
You can move that seat back.
Okay. Okie dokie.
I didn't know you were working in there.
Well, I just, my wife, my sweet bride, called out to me one day and she said there's a posting for the chamber to replace Liz, and she said, wouldn't that be a hoot if you could work for Daisy? And I said, that would be a hoot.
Yeah.
And I applied for it and they picked me.
That's right.
So I feel blessed. And after I walked out of my second interview when they offered me the job, I went and I sat on my papa, Robert Booth's bench out here.
Yeah.
This old bench in the courtyard, right, honoring his 22 years of service. And I actually tried to get a job with the city 2 years ago when there was an opening in the archives for with the county clerk's office.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even interview me.
Oh, really?
They just sent me a rubber stamped thank you for applying. Never even got an interview. Which
makes you think they knew who they were going to.
Yeah, I would think so too. So I was like, you know what? I'm not just going to apply for anything. I've always wanted to work for here. Once Lisa and I bought our house here on Mitchell Street, the old Patek house, and so when this one opened up, I was like, this is the kind of thing I've been looking for. So
good. Well, I usually do about 20 minutes of Gonzales history from start to finish.
Okay.
And I think within that, we can talk about the canon.
Mm-hmm.
I started when Leon Tardis started me doing tours. We were telling everybody that was the canon and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then after I did some research in that little book that's kind of our Bible.
Mm-hmm.
I found out that the
Is that your wife's book?
No, it's one that was done by I'm trying to think of her last name. Anyway, back in 1903.
Oh, it's an old book. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's an old book. It's not in print anymore, but they have a copy of it in here. It's just a little.
Is it the Origins of the State? Is it the Smithwick book?
It's about DeWitt's colony.
Okay. All right.
But I found out that they borrowed a 6-pounder. I mean, when they went and borrowed a cannon, it was a 6-pounder brass.
I see.
And I'm sitting here telling people that, and this was not a 6-pound that's pretty good size.
It is.
Wad, and this one up here's got a bore about that big,
It's
21
ball.
inches long. Yeah. And about 3 years ago, or maybe a little longer, a guy learned to speak Spanish. I think he was over in Weimar, I believe. He was a teacher, and he learned to speak Spanish so he could research the thing from the Mexican side.
Mm-hmm.
And in that process, he found a journal written by Lieutenant Castañeda, who was in charge of the Mexican troops here during the Battle of Gonzales. He said that the settlers had 2 cannons.
Interesting.
They had a 6-pounder, and then they had one called an Esmeralda, which was a signal cannon, a very small cannon. And he says in the journal it said the settlers fired the small cannon first.
Oh, interesting.
And then
hit them with the big stuff.
Oh. They fired the big cannon, but not first.
Not first.
That's right. And the part from there on, what I've heard, is relatively similar because when Stephen F. Austin left here 10 days after the Battle of Gonzales, they took the cannon with them, and then they
The 6-pounder?
No, the
Esmeralda.
The Esmeralda, and they had trouble with the carriage, and then they buried it in Sandy's Creek, and it was there for 100 years. And it washed up during a flood, and I think that it went several places. One of them being the basement of the building up there, and
the old post office.
For once, I felt like, well, I'm not lying to him,
right?
You know? And based on the guy that finally, Dr. God, I can't. I turned 84 and my brain just doesn't work. I tell everybody I'm doing. You have to listen real close so you'll know where we are when I say where was I.
Okay, it's okay.
But I want to say Dr. Wagner, but that's not right. But anyway, he got the cannon, hired 2 guys to professional researchers, and based on notes written by a guy who worked on it, they proved that was the Esmeralda at the thing. So anyway, at least it's kind of fits everything together, and a lot of people get that cannon confused with the fact that they borrowed the 6-pounder, and they think the 6-pounder is the one the Mexicans came after.
So like when they were down at cost and they finally decided to be like, we're tired of, chasing these people and we're going to get the war started, and possibly Eli Mitchell, lit the match. He likely lit the Esmeralda first.
Could be.
Boom.
Yeah.
And then they just had the second cannon, the 6-pounder, with them already loaded.
I would think so.
That way they could hit him. They could almost hit him with 2 shots, like boom, boom.
Yeah. And there's a guy. Jeez, my name is bad today. But anyway, there's about 5 guys over east of here, and all they do is work on the word, the exactly what happened during the Revolution, and one of them is interested in the cannons.
Okay.
The last time I talked to him, he said at one time there were at least 6 cannons here
in Gonzales. Prior to October 2nd.
Prior to October 2nd, and they 2 of them, when they found out Santana was on the way, the 2 of them, they dropped 2 of them below the dam.
Okay.
They dropped 2 up there at Eddie Halmashek's little, what do you call it, a little backup of the river. And we don't know about the others. I don't know.
The 2, quote, dropped below the dam. I mean, that's not like Lakewood. Is that the...
No, that's right down here.
Okay, where the power plant is?
Yeah, below that. Yeah,
I see.
Below that. And let's see.
So are those 2 cannons dropped below the power plant dam, in theory, still there?
And at one time, now this is a rumor, that they went looking and they found one of them, and they dug it up out of the river and tried to redo it, and they fired it and it split the barrel. And so they threw it back in the river.
Oh,
now
interesting.
That's something you don't want to take your to. But
it's just like a side note.
Yeah. So anyway, I want to in 1800, all of Mexico, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, Utah, Nevada, part of Wyoming, part of Colorado, part of Oklahoma, and part of Kansas was all claimed by Spain. And then, of course, when Mexico gained its independence in 21, they laid claim to all of that, and which, of course, became very important later. And They were nervous. The United States had put out feelers to buy Texas, but mainly there was nothing but Indians there, and they couldn't control them. They were raiding from the Panhandle down to the coast, down into Mexico, mainly Comanches.
Okay.
A few Apaches, but mainly Comanches. And when then Mexico said, well, we can't control these people. How are we going to, what are we going to do? Well, they're in their 1824 Constitution, they passed that colonization law to get people in here. And of course, do you know how they lured them in here?
If I remember right, wasn't it they were giving away free land?
Free land.
If you married like a Mexican girl, you even got more land, didn't you?
Well, if you brought your family, if you came in as single, then you got a quarter of it. And again, if you married anybody, really, including a Mexican girl, then you got the other 3/4.
I see.
And the deal was, if you had your family and you wanted to be a farmer, you got a labor, or 177 acres. If you wanted to be a rancher, then you got a league, 4,428 acres.
Whoa.
And I've seen costs of nothing to $2 an acre. I don't know which one it is.
Wow. 4,700 acres for a league if you're going to be a rancher.
4,428, I believe is what it was. And so anyway, they started, they used impresarios, which was Green DeWitt. Green DeWitt was an impresario. And in 1825, early 1825, he signed his contract to bring 400 families in here. Okay, and when he hired James Kerr.
Okay.
To survey it, and he picked this spot for Green DeWitt's capital city.
Wow. Named
it after Don Rafael Gonzalez, who was the provisional governor of Coahuila, Texas at the time. And he started surveying, and then in 26, most of them were away doing surveys and whatever, but there was one guy out here at Kerr Creek, and that's where they had their cabins. He was out there, and the Indians killed him, and they scared him away, and they came down and sat down here by the river, built a little fort, and protect themselves. And then, let's see, after that.
So did town used to be like right on the river's edge? Okay.
That's where it started.
Okay.
They laid it out, of course, with the 7 squares and 2 avenues that we call avenues. And after they were, at that time, General, I'm trying to think, what became president of Mexico, and he didn't like the settlers. So, well, before that, DeWitt started having Indian trouble, and so that's when he sent his guys to San Antonio to borrow cannon.
I see.
They brought it back home. I don't think they ever killed anybody with it. It just made a lot of noise.
Is the cannon that they got for protection from Indians, is it the same cannon that's up there?
No, it's the 6-pounder.
It's the 6-pounder. Okay.
6-pounder. Brass, and this one is a I don't know what.
It's like a
1-pounder
nice
iron. And so anyway, then President Bustamante, that was his name, he didn't like the settlers in here. But so he canceled that colonization law, which really made everybody mad because they couldn't bring any more people in. And then,
do you know what year he did that?
I think it was 1830.
Okay, so they were under the colonization law for about 5 years.
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, we're not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
And anyway, let's see, things went along, and then Santa Anna came into power in about 1833 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't like the settlers any.
I see.
So he had a lot of problems down in Mexico, and it took him a while to straighten them out. But in 35, then, he told the colonel, a guy named Ugortequia, he was the colonel in San Antonio,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, I don't like these settlers in here. He said, I want you to go over there and get my cannon back. He said, we're going to disarm them. Well, when you tell an old frontiersman you're going to disarm him,
Yeah.
you created yourself a problem.
Right.
So anyway, he's the one that sent five guys over here with the wagon, came to the river right down there.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go buy some of this in a
Mhm.
minute. Came to the river and demanded the cannon. There were 18 men here.
Mhm.
Of course, you're familiar with the old 18.
Mhm.
And they actually captured those guys. The 18 did.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
They captured them.
I didn't know
They
that.
never made it across the river. They captured them, and 2 of them escaped, and it was.
So when they captured them, Paul, were they on our side of the river, or they where those little monuments are on J.B. Wells?
No, I think they were on this side.
Okay.
Of the river.
Okay.
I don't know for sure.
Mm-hmm.
After that, the colonel sent 100 guys over here under Lieutenant Castañeda,
Mm-hmm.
but he told him before he left San Antonio, don't you start anything you can't finish.
Oh, yeah?
Okay?
I see.
This is stuff that I've just
Mhm.
picked up along the way. But anyway, they came over, and the settlers knew that they were coming. They sent
Mhm.
horseback riders out into the colony
Mhm.
saying, well, you'd come to Gonzales,
Mhm.
and the men were coming in here. And the 100 soldiers, they went right down here to the edge of the river,
Mhm.
same place the 5 had been.
Is that sort of like where the fort is underneath the river bridge? You think that's right there? Or
I think it was just above where the dam is now.
Okay, gotcha.
At the end of St. Louis.
Okay. I see.
So they let me think a minute. Okay. I got to do this in sequence or I really get lost.
That's fine. Thanks for letting me ask a lot of questions.
Where was I now? We had them. Okay,
You said they met them?
100, yeah.
Mhm.
And so he couldn't. Castañeda couldn't cross the river because there were already too many settlers here,
Mhm.
and so and they refused to give up the cannon. So then the Mexican troops started upriver. We think either looking for another crossing because
Mhm.
they couldn't get here, or they figured they were getting ready to get into more than they wanted,
Mhm.
so they were headed back to Mexico. We don't know which one. And but they started out and then wound up out there at the battleground at
Cost?
yeah, it's at Cost, but it was on Ezekiel Williams'
Okay.
farm or ranch. And the men here then, there was a lot of men here. We think about 175 or 80 or something like that. And they, the first guys had buried the cannon right down there. Have you seen where the peach orchard?
I haven't.
Right down here.
No.
Okay. They buried the cannon in the peach orchard, and Green DeWitt's wife and daughter made the first flag out of the daughter's wedding
Mhm.
dress. And so the guys got together and they took the flag with them, and
Mhm.
they dug the cannon up, and they sneaked across the river
Mhm.
and went upriver looking for somebody to shoot at.
Oh,
That's
wow.
what they were doing. They were
I see.
mad. And so they
Quick question. So when they buried the cannon wasn't buried for too long, it sounds
No,
like.
that's
It was
right.
just like
It was
a
not.
short period of time. They were like, we're going to dig it up.
If the Mexican
Mhm.
troops got across, they didn't want them to find it.
Right.
That was the whole thing. And So about the next morning, which would have been the 1st, October 1st, they found the Mexican troops out there camped at Ezekiel Williams.
Okay.
And Constaneda and John Moore. John Moore was in charge of the settlers.
Okay.
They met. And the story is that the Mexican guy said, "Oh, we want that crummy cannon, you know, what's the big deal?" Now, I don't know which cannon he was talking about. John Moore said, you can't have it. You got two choices. You can surrender to us and join us in our fight against Santa Anna to reinstate that colonization law, or we can just do battle right here.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, at the time, the population of Mexico was about 7 million. The population of Texas was, we think, about 35,000. And here's 175 guys out here saying we ain't putting up with this anymore, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's so great.
And anyway, they could not reach an agreement. So they both went back to their men, and John Moore ordered the first shot.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now we don't know what happened at the first shot. We know where it happened, but we don't know. There's rumor that says a Mexican soldier was killed and a Texan was wounded when he fell off his horse.
Okay.
And the other one is the Mexican was wounded and they killed a mule.
Okay.
So we have no idea what really happened there, but there were shots fired. Mexican troops started back to to San Antonio. And that's when 10 days after that first shot, they assigned the head to Stephen F. Austin. He wasn't a military man. You know, he didn't go all the way to San Antonio, but they started out on their way to San Antonio. And in the meantime, there were several skirmishes. But in December, they defeated General Koss, who had come in and taken over from the colonel.
Okay.
Unfortunately, he was Santa Anna's brother-in-law. And
now, when you said they defeated them, you mean Stephen F. Austin defeated them?
no, Stephen F. Austin did not go all the way.
I see.
He left and went. He was up doing politics.
Okay.
Okay. But the settlers, you know, I mean, these are not soldiers. The things people don't understand is they were just ordinary men. They had ordinary jobs, ordinary everything was ordinary, and all of a sudden you put them in a place where it's their life. And so they went over there, and it didn't take them long, and they ran General Koss out of San Antonio, which is how we got in how we got into Alamo to start with.
Interesting.
Now he knows that Santa Anna's on the way, so he sends out horseback riders, and one of them came through here, said we got to have help. And of course, the only 32 men who answered that call are the immortal 32 from Gonzales. They would, live here necessarily. They may have been from the colony. They may have left from here. We don't know what the situation was. But at any rate, they went. And where am I going here now? Settlers.
The 32 were the ones that came.
Yeah, the 32.
They came from different parts of the colony.
Yeah, they did, and of course the Battle of the Alamo. Everybody knows what happened there, but there were 32 men who left from here. But what a lot of people don't realize is there were 9 men already with Travis from Gonzales. Okay, and of course they all died. Now, Houston, March the 2nd, Declaration of Independence was signed in Texas on I guess,
Independence?
Yeah, Texas Independence. And let me think a minute now. Boy, I tell you, sometimes I just draw a blank. But
It's okay.
Anyway, they went. They came over here. I haven't done this but twice since April. It's just really telling.
It's okay. Your family, Paul.
Yeah, don't tell Bobby I got.
Oh, Bobby said you're one of his best friends.
He's a character.
Privileged I'm sitting here with
He
you.
is a character.
He is.
But he, anyway,
So there are 9 men already with Travis.
Yeah,
were any of those 9 men at the Battle of Gonzales, or were these like
Yes.
separate?
No, they were. Some of them were.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were at the Battle of Gonzales. Some of them were at the Battle of Gonzales and the Alamo.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them even went to San Jacinto.
Wow.
Okay. But okay. The Declaration of Independence was signed, but they also named Sam Houston the general of the army,
Okay.
and he left Washington on the Brazos for Gonzales, arrived here on the 11th of March, and he started trying to train these guys.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little marker down there on St. John Street. If you go as far as you can go, on St. John going south, you'll see that little lollipop mark,
Okay.
and that's where he was training those guys. And Sam Houston then 2 days later on the 13th, Susanna Dickinson arrived here in town
Okay.
and with her child, and of course her husband died in the Alamo, and she had been released along with a few others, and she was reported to Houston that Santa Anna had 3 armies. He had one under General Gaona up at Bastrop,
Okay.
General, I can't remember his name, down at Refugio. He's the one that came up and did the massacre of Goliad.
Okay.
And then Sesma, he sent through here with a 3-pronged attack and said, kill them or run them out. I
Wow.
don't want them in here anymore. Okay. So Sam, at 11 o'clock at night, on the, I believe it was the 13th of March, Sam Houston ordered this town burned to the ground.
Mm.
He didn't want to leave Santa Anna anything. So, and he left on what's called...
Is that March 13th?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the runaway scrape.
Gotcha.
I don't know why they call it
So it's
that.
like Dickinson gets to town. She says there's 3 armies.
Yeah.
There are these 3 different locations. Sam Houston's already here. He showed up on March the 11th. He's like, we got to preemptively burn the town to keep Santa Anna from getting our stores,
that's
supplies,
right. Exactly right.
the whole bit.
So that starts a runaway scrape. Now all the men are in the army.
Mhm.
Okay? Who's that leave?
Just the women
and the children.
Mm.
So they start gathering up blankets and food, little food, or a few small tools they may need, and they're trying to keep up with the men. They can't do it. The men are headed east out here, and so you start seeing stuff drop by the wayside.
Oh, interesting.
It's one of the coldest, wettest springs in Texas history.
Interesting.
Okay. There's no I-10 and there's no 90A. It's
Yeah.
all mud trails. And those women and children are walking in the mud, and their shoes disintegrate. And their babies are born, and babies die, and they're buried in all 5 rivers at that time between here and Houston were in flood stage.
Wow.
And so babies die, and they're buried in graves half full with water because they got to keep moving. And if you're one lady was pregnant with twins. Elizabeth Kent had 9 children to look after. Mary Millsap had 7 children and was blind.
Amazing.
And they're running for their life. They finally catch the men out here at Sam Houston Oak.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next morning, Houston goes on up towards LaGrange. And there was a crossing, Burnham's Ferry, between LaGrange and Columbus.
Okay.
Okay. And the women and the children head out towards Columbus.
Okay.
And now Houston crosses those rivers and winds up across on the other side of the Brazos and stops at Gross's plantation. He starts training some more.
Okay.
Same time, Houston goes through and he gets over close to Houston, Harrisburg. He burns it to the ground. There's one other town. I'll think of the name of it in the morning.
Okay.
But he burned that to the ground, and then he started on over to San Jacinto. And after a bit, Houston starts down, and he rises the same day at San Jacinto.
Have we ever heard an opinion from Santa Ana when he comes up to Gonzales or these other towns and finds them on fire? I assume he was displeased.
Well, I would think he would be. I don't know of any other burning besides Gonzales. I think they burned San Felipe.
Okay.
Because that was Stephen F. Austin's head. That was his the main town in his group. He actually had 2 colonies. But anyway, when Sam Houston got to San Jacinto at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he attacked. The battle lasted 18 minutes.
Wow.
They killed over 600 Mexican soldiers, and they captured Santa Ana, and Coss was with him.
Mm-hmm.
They caught them both, and the Republic of Texas was born. Now, for 9 years, Texas and Mexico argued over where the border was.
Oh, interesting.
One saying the new Aces, that was Mexico, and Texas said, no, it's the Rio Grande, and they argued for 9 years. Well, that brings you to 1845. Texas becomes a state.
Yeah.
Now it's an argument between the United States and Mexico, and in 1846 they go to war. And
I see.
In 48, Santa Ana surrenders again, and because he lost that war, he signed a Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, which gave the United States total ownership and control of all of those states that we named a while ago.
Oh, interesting.
Clear up into Kansas and all around. More land, because of the first shot fired here, more land was added to the United States than was in the original 13 colonies.
Wow. And that was 1848, after this war and the Treaty of Guadalupe.
But if you look at the sequence of events, it all calls for the first shot fired here.
Amazing.
Come on now. I'm sorry, I don't have time for a spam list.
No, it's fine. I get called all the time from people trying to extend my car warranty.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we started getting those things about 2 weeks after we bought a new car. This car.
Crazy.
I had the,
Like it's brand new. Why would we extend it?
well, we had the perfect tour car. We had an Odyssey.
Okay.
Man, I love that car.
A Honda Odyssey.
We got to have a smaller car. I don't like that big car. So this is it.
You know what? You have a wealth of knowledge and you're a legend. So I think they could put you in the Apollo 11 moon capsule and people would still be enthralled with your story. See? I'm serious.
I don't know. But there are a lot of people that are willing, from everywhere, that are willing to sit there and listen to all of that and like it.
Yes.
It's a fascinating story.
So, quick question.
Yeah.
After San Jacinto, Jeannie has told me before that it was like her great-great-great uncle that was on the detail that captured Santa Anna. He was like tried to dress as like a servant or
Yeah.
like a private or something.
Yeah.
It surprises me that even after capturing him, that he would still somehow be able to get back to Mexico and come back into power.
I'm glad you asked that question. At the time, okay, you've got Santa Anna sitting here in your control. Okay? You can shoot him or whatever. But the story that I have heard more than anywhere was that at the time, the law in Mexico was to give up any land. You had to have approval from the President of Mexico and the General of the Army, and Santa Anna happened to be both.
Oh.
So he signs this document that says, go home for my troops. They've won it. And it held up. Now, they could have killed him. I've also heard that he and Houston were both Masons.
I see.
I don't know what that would have done at the time, but this story made more sense to me than anything, that was the law of Mexico at the time. Anyway, that's my history.
Okay, this is great.
Now, the Baptist church is 1903,
Okay.
and that's all in that book.
Okay.
There's some of the houses that I did not put in that book because I couldn't find any pertinent information on the people that built it.
Okay.
And so that's all.
Well, I know that at least historically the Patek house hasn't been on the tour, but when we had our house on the Christmas tour last year, the Patek family showed up and gave us a stack of information about the home.
Really?
Historical pictures of the home from like when it was first built.
Yeah.
They have in their notes that the construction began in 07 and ended in 08.
What does that sign say?
1908.
Wow.
So it's correct?
Yeah, that's more than what that might be somebody. Come on. Hello? Yes? Hey, I'm on the tour right now. I don't have time. You can call me in a couple of hours.
They said they would have completed in 07, but they had a bunch of delays from interior millwork coming out of Chicago.
Yeah.
And so it was delayed, and they had this like no roof on the building and all this business. They also told us that guy hand built all the cinder blocks with a machine called a Sears Wizard. It's like this little hand operated deal, and they used to have it. And at some point, when the last Patek moved out of there, they liquidated a bunch of things out of the house and sold it. But they said that James built those blocks by hand with his boys, over 4,000 of them, for the house.
Cow.
And they said later this church right here, this Presbyterian church, that James Patek was a Presbyterian church member, how he had left the Catholic faith in Shiner and moved here to Gonzales and helped them build that new church. Like he had this expertise in building his home.
He must have.
And helped with the Presbyterian church.
He owned, when I did the research on that house, I didn't have a whole lot except that I found out through the deeds that he owned a bunch of land.
Interesting.
Along the river. Well, the house wasn't there at this time.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden he started selling that.
I see.
And he almost sold all of it and built that house for his wife. That's the information that I ran across. Okay.
Interesting.
So what you're saying zeroes right in on that. That's amazing. This was George Davis's peach orchard here.
So that's the peach
where
orchard.
they buried the cannon.
Unbelievable.
And a lady in town has now planted the peach trees and is taking care of them, and is taking a lot of heat because some people apparently have been calling her and tell her that she needs to tear all these buildings down and make a peach orchard.
Oh yeah?
She ain't about to do that.
That's hard work.
But anyway, that's where the peach are.
So let me ask you this question. Ross Booth Jr., who's, my mom and Bobby's cousin,
Yeah.
I remember he used to have a piano at his residence over there that's now Bell Oaks.
Yeah.
That he told us once when we were kids it had been buried in, quote, the peach orchard along with some other items of interest.
Yes.
Maybe it wasn't that peach orchard, but it was buried at the time of when Santa Ana was coming to Gonzales.
The runaway scrape started.
Is it possible it was buried in that peach orchard, or was it just that at the time there were peach orchards just sort of everywhere?
I don't know. I've heard a lot
Mm-hmm.
about a piano being buried before they left on the runaway scrape.
Mm-hmm.
But now, as far as exactly where it was buried, I don't know. I
see.
can't answer that.
That's okay. That's great, though. I never knew that was the peach orchard.
Yeah, I'd see it.
That's very famous. I love it. Do you know who owns that plot now?
No, I don't know the lady's
Mm-hmm.
name. If you ever really need to
Mm-hmm.
know, I think my wife probably can tell you. She knows the lady, so.
So there's St. John, St. Louis.
Yeah, right down there
Uh-huh.
is where that little lollipop sign is, and I call the lollipop sign like this thing right here.
Oh, I've never noticed that sign either.
Well, see, way at the start,
Mhm.
when most of the people were way surveying and the Indians attacked, they built that little fort at one point to keep them safe, and that one down there on St. John looked just like it. Now, the other thing, do you notice that all the Saint streets are in alphabetical order
I have not.
except one?
Oh,
St. John comes before St. James going that
Mhm.
way. Other than that, they're all in alphabetical order.
and is that from Green DeWitt days, like when they laid out
Well,
the city?
Yeah.
Okay.
They laid them out that way.
Mm-hmm. So this is like old downtown, like
That's right.
1830s old downtown is here.
When we get back,
Mm-hmm.
I want to be sure they've got the book. But there is one of the DeWitt, I believe, boys. I think. Anyway, there's a map in the back
Mm-hmm.
that shows you at the really not very far into the town getting built,
Mm-hmm.
and identifies where so and so's house was, or so and so's. We had a guy that worked on all the cannons, and where his house was and his business
Mm-hmm.
and hat shop and.
Oh, that's cool. I've not seen that before.
Yeah, and we'll find that.
So obviously, I guess a long, long time ago, these trees may or may not have been here, and the river is just beyond those trees.
That is the river,
Mhm.
and it was a lot bigger, a lot wider. And
Has that been
it had a
changed
drop
from-
off. It had a drop off, and the women used to go down to the river and do their laundry or take.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I see.
know. But when they built this, they built all this stuff up.
Oh, so this is like this embankment is raised.
I think
means-
it was just cut off.
Okay.
Now, right in here is her. I don't want to be too crazy here. I get run over. But this is where those exchanges took place.
Mhm.
Right in here with
Right
the
in here.
settlers on one side and the Mexican troops across the river.
I'm surprised that those monuments are at the J.B. Wells area, not sitting right here. Or is there a reason
they
why?
moved those. Well,
Okay.
There used to be a different bridge
Okay.
across. It was a
The
little
old,
further down
the old
there.
like trestle bridge.
I think, yes.
Or maybe
I
even
think it
prior to
was.
that.
I think it was a trestle bridge. But anyway, it was a little to the east of where it is now. And I don't know what I was getting ready to tell you.
Well, it seems to me like, and I've always felt that these markers out here at J.B. Wells are sort of in a odd location, because I always felt that if town was right back here, they would have likely met the Mexican Army detachment there and not way out here.
That is correct. You're right, but they've already been moved once.
Okay.
Moved over to there, but it's no better than where it was.
Mm-hmm.
As far as this is where it happened, you know.
Mm-hmm. Maybe the Gonzales Historical Society can come up with some sort of placard, either to put over here or over here, that denotes that this is likely the spot where the old 18 were.
Did you happen to see the big, big cement monument? Cement. It stands up and has it's shaped like one of those little signs, kind of. But it sits back there, and at one point, a very important lady, if I could remember her name, in San Antonio was interested in the history, and she designed a monument and put them up all in San Antonio, but there's one here in Gonzales because this was a buffalo crossing.
Oh, I see.
Here at the river.
I've never seen that monument. You're saying it's in that part of town behind us?
Oh, yeah, it's right there on Market Square.
Okay.
And we'll go back by there.
Is that Buffalo Trail, does it have anything to do with the Chisholm Trail, or is it unrelated?
I don't think so. By the time you got down here, I think the Chisholm Trail had so many spurs on it where people drove into that one single place.
Okay. I've heard about the Chisholm Trail feeder roads and how they pretty much terminated and joined up with the main Chisholm Trail in Lockhart. But I don't know how accurate that is.
The Chisholm Trail went all the way.
Well, no, they just said the feeder lanes that were, quote, Chisholm Trail, like all sort of drew together at Lockhart and then headed north up towards Waco and then beyond.
That could be, yeah. That sounds right.
I mean, I know that there's the Washington Street Bridge in Waco has an enormous, like Remington bronze life-size of cattle crossing, and it's marking where the Chisholm Trail crosses the Brazos.
Okay, now you can go right out here and go to the First Shot Battleground.
Okay.
Okay. And the only thing that I really would tell you about the First Shot Battleground is that the way we know where that shot was fired. Okay. Maybe we ought to go out there. What time is it?
I'm all fine for it. It's all good. Whatever we need to do.
Let's do that.
I'm not going anywhere. I'll be at the chamber office tomorrow. When I told Mom that I got hired by the chamber, she said Pawpaw's smiling on me.
I get. How long are Bobby and them going to stay over there?
He's worried about Jeannie's lungs and her breathing and just the COVID, because it attacks people who have weakened immune systems, and I think his take is we're just going to stay there until this thing blows over, or at least there's a vaccine.
Until they get a vaccine for it.
But who knows when that'll be.
Yeah, my wife accidentally found out she had lung cancer.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And well, it's that deal. And she's doing great.
That's good.
But she only has one lung.
Oh, I see.
And so we're running a little scared on that ourselves.
Did they have to remove her other lung?
They did.
I see.
They did. The day she found out, she went over there and she was the doctor said, you need to have an ablation. Okay, well, you got to have this x-ray or whatever they do to be sure you don't have anything that'll get in our way. And they didn't find anything for the ablation, but the technician said, I think you better check this area right over here. And if he hadn't caught that, she'd be dead.
Oh my.
When she called that afternoon, called MD Anderson, got an appointment, went over and
How long ago was this happened?
About a year and a half.
I see.
think. And she had 3 chemos, which didn't do any good. So he went in. That guy went in. He never had to break a rib, move a rib, or anything. But he got that lung out on her back, and she's doing great.
How long have you and Vicki been married for?
Woo, since 50 something years.
That's
56,
great. I love it.
Yeah.
Mom and Daddy were married since 65, but he died 5 years ago. So
yeah. The reason I changed my mind about going out here is I wanted you to see the kind of the situation where everybody was. You know, it was a standard. It is a standard thing when you're in the military and you're marching. You want to stop on high ground, and so we think that's what Lieutenant Castaneda did. Stopped on high ground, and the guys that the settlers in town. That's where they found them, and they were a pretty good distance from them, but they were on the low side.
I see.
And
this is the contingent led by John Moore, right? They're out looking for him.
Yeah.
Like John Moore and the team
right.
have this cannon, the 6-pound cannon, as well as the Esmeralda, and they're working their way along the the Guadalupe River bottoms.
That's right.
And then they come into Castaneda's force that's on this knoll.
Yeah.
This bluff.
That's what I thought it sounded like good. There's a watermelon patch on top of that, so it's a good place to stop.
I would imagine that they've had a lot of time to talk and have communication as they were hiking along, thinking, well, when we run into these guys, what are we going to do to them?
Yeah. Well, they just wanted them to shoot at.
Yeah.
And the big difference is in my opinion, many of the Mexican troops were not, they're number 1 guys. I mean, there were some real young guys and some probably some guys they drug out of prison or something. You don't know what kind they had. But those settlers, when they pulled the trigger, they hit whatever they were shooting at.
Right. They're like skilled squirrel marksmen.
That's right.
Like, we can knock them out.
And that shows up in a lot of places. You know, they had several skirmishes going from here to San Antonio, and they had several skirmishes there.
And those are skirmishes on their way fighting into the Alamo, is that it?
They were on the way to fight the Alamo.
Let me ask you a question. I know it's not part of the tour, but I realize it's Gonzales Apaches, but I also know that there were mostly Comanches in the area.
Yeah.
We have a distant ancestor on the DeBow side who was kidnapped by Comanches in Hammond. She was out picking pecans on her family's place, later returned in a trade for a donkey. Why did the Gonzales High School pick the term, you think, Apaches and not Comanches?
Well...
Or even not pick volunteers like the Tennessee Volunteers, the Gonzales Volunteers?
I don't know why they picked that, but it's the interesting thing that I've heard about it is that's what the Apache helicopter is named after.
I've heard that too.
Yeah.
I've heard that gentleman went to Gonzales High School.
Yeah, the guy that got it named that was here at one point several years ago, 15, 20 years ago. But you see that list right up there?
I do.
Okay. When
Texians at the battle here at Cost.
Yeah, we were trying to get the state to develop this area down here.
Okay.
And Bob Bouchard had a little group that he did. I don't believe you ever saw it or not, called Gonzales The Beginning.
I did. I saw it at the old jail, rather the courthouse.
Yeah.
And the year I saw it, I remember Bob, when the alarm went off, the fire alarm, he said, he broke character for a second, said we have to wait for the tornado siren or whatever, and it was over, and he went back into character. So.
but he wrote that thing, and he was trying to promote. And he invited a whole bunch of state dignitaries down here, and got a bus, and he brought them out here and had a little deal set up down here where we're going.
And y'all did Gonzales at the beginning down here too, or
no,
was it just?
He didn't do that. He just set this up, and he had. My wife was Mrs. Darst.
Okay, I remember that now.
And so
Leon was in it too, wasn't he? Green
Leon
DeWitt
was in it, yeah. And so he parked Vicky across the kind of behind the tree over there, and he made his little speech, which he was very good at. And finally he said, and we've got somebody here that can tell us more.
Oh, nice.
So he invites Vicky over there, He said, Mrs. Darst, do you feel like that the men that were here were treated well and given the recognition that they deserve? And he had her just kind of stand there and look at it for a minute and then turn around and walk off.
That's funny.
Now the way we know, that's one thing I wanted to tell you. The way we know where this took place. Jacob Darst was from, he came in here, he was from Missouri.
Okay.
And he brought his family in. And he was in the Battle of Gonzales. Later, he was in the battle he died at San Jacinto. Between those 2 dates, he brought his son David out here. And he said, now somebody's got to know where this took place.
I see.
And I want you to know that it took place right here, and here's what happened.
Amazing.
And so then in 1903, the Gonzales school kids made some money to put this little monument up down here to those guys.
I know the River Slough is here. Was the River Slough there in 1835 too?
Well, I'm not sure of that. I know that that's not the river.
Okay,
that's
right.
not all I know. It could have been, or it may not be. But this is where that took place, and this is apparently where the first shot was fired.
So John Moore is coming up through the river bottoms here, and he probably gets to about right here, and then he finds Castaneda, I assume, over there.
They're looking for high ground, okay? You look over there as high ground.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
You look right here as high ground.
I see.
Look over here at high ground.
I see.
Now, we have these 5 guys that I told you about earlier that just study. That's all they do, study the revolution.
Take a picture.
And at one point, there was, they found a musket ball at San Jacinto, and they traced the lead back to Moses Austin's lead mine in Missouri. Okay.
Wow, they're serious.
Yeah, and now these guys said, we're going to find a musket ball out here, and we're going to see if it's still done now. So every once in a while, you see them come out here with their metal detectors.
I see.
They've been doing this for I don't know how many years, and they hadn't found one yet because there was hardly no shots fired.
Right, very few.
Yeah, do you want to take a picture?
I do. So the opinion here is that Moore's coming through the river bottoms from town.
Yeah,
he gets here.
All right.
Well, the monument, you read the monument in such a way that you're facing the slough, but it's just that the monument is put there. I mean, they're not going to have the monument facing where you read it to where you got to walk around the backside of the monument. But they were likely here, and Castaneda's men are somewhere on these hills behind us.
The Mexican
troops.
Yeah.
And they're waving their little come and take it flag.
Well, the settlers are waving
their... Rather, the settlers are waving the come and take it flag. Yeah. They've got the 6-pound cannon. They've got the Esmeralda. Eli Mitchell, likely, or someone else, upon John Moore's order, fires the cannon.
When I was researching those houses, I ran across a deal that said that he's the one that fired the cannon.
Mm-hmm.
However, when my wife wrote her book, she ran across at least 4 eyewitness accounts, and every one of them named somebody different.
Oh, like someone different than Eli Mitchell,
Yes.
or someone different
Yes,
from
different than Eli
each,
Mitchell.
but not the same in each of the other 4 accounts. There were like 4 different people other than Eli Mitchell.
So there was no proof on who fired the
I see.
cannon.
Understood. That's pretty historic. I can imagine that scene right here with the 6-pounder aimed up there, and them getting it going.
Yeah,
So after they fire and they shoot and they kill maybe one or kill a horse or something, is then the idea that those Castaneda's forces then head back to San Antonio Bejar.
could be up the river
Mm-hmm.
looking for another crossing, or could be on their way back San Antonio.
Mm-hmm. And did this bunch down here, John Moore and his crew,
They didn't follow.
they just were like, we're heading back to town with the news.
yeah, we won this war.
Awesome. I love it. Let me take a picture.
Sure.
They got a beautiful Labrador out the door who may try to
I don't think it.
see us. Hey, baby. Hey, look at you. You smell Tucker on me, don't you?
Got it?
Yep. I even took a panoramic picture, too, of that scene. Well, I've always been intrigued at this monument up here.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a way to catch people on the highway, and it lets people know that the actual first shot happened, down the road here, where that marker is. And just to backtrack real quick, when you said they met them at Ezekiel Williams' farm, is this Ezekiel Williams' farm in here?
Yeah,
Okay.
4,428 acres.
I'll see. And I just wish.
That's where they were camped.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where they were camped. Amazing. I've always heard about the Santa Ana Mound. Is it called the Santa Ana Mound just because that's a nice name, or did Santa Ana camp on it?
Supposedly, after the Alamo fell and he started his march with the 3 armies, one of them coming through here, he came through and supposedly camped there one night.
I see. He probably was on top of that hill watching town burn and not happy about it.
It's probably true.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, particularly Gonzales people, the older ones will tell you that's where they met, and that was where it started and all kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're really a little confused with the fact that Santa Ana was here, and so anyway, we've about got that. Not many people say that anymore. That he actually came in and started shooting at the mound.
I see. Gotcha.
There is one story that I try to tell people that Vicki ran across when she was doing her research, and it's when Santa Anna was coming to the Alamo, Travis sent out the horseback riders. One of them came through here saying, we got to have some help, and went to the different ranches and farms around, because it wasn't everybody in the middle of town. And he went to the King Ranch, and that's not anything to do with Kingsville.
Okay, gotcha.
Just the King Ranch, and they had 2 sons. And the dad said, well, I'm going to go. And the older son said, no, you're not. I'm going because you got to stay here and take care of the family. So he goes, and of course dies in the Alamo. Then what a lot of people don't realize is that, I think it's 1842, another Mexican general came up to San Antonio, marched up San Antonio, took San Antonio, captured most of the important people there, and started back to Mexico. And the people out in here said, whoa, we can't let them start that, we'll lose everything. So they start going around to the farms and ranches, and we got to have a group to go over there and get those people or beat this guy up. And they go to the King Ranch, and the old man's too old to go. The son said, well, I'm going to go. And the old man said, no, you're not. We've lost one son. That's enough. And the mother said, let him go. Better we should lose a son than our country.
Oh, wow.
And I said, how many mamas do you think would say that today?
I know. That's...
it's a different mindset. Liberty was the thing. That was what was so important.
Now, when people are more selfish and self-preserving and not thinking about the bigger picture.
That's correct.
Do you know, is John Moore, is he possibly related to the Moore family in Gonzales, like Otis and Elizabeth Moore?
I don't know. I do not know. We have some people who are descendants of some of the original settlers here. But now I don't know about, just who they are. I know one lady was 100 and something. She just died a couple of weeks ago. And women live a long time in this town.
They do.
Dang.
Me mom made it to 97.
She's such an interesting person. She would. I used to go over and talk to her. And
this is Florence?
Yeah,
okay.
Florence. Yeah. And she'd tell me all this stuff. And she was telling me about was her daughter-in-law, I think. But Florence would tell me about the lady was a self-taught physician, really, and she said she'd treat a lot of people with her famous secret.
Yes, her iron and the liniments.
Yeah, this was she had what was it? I can't remember. I shouldn't have started that story.
Is it the horse liniment? Is that what you're trying to think of?
No, this was for people, and it was made out of white gasoline and camphor. Okay. And she said, I used to have some of that, but I ran out of it.
Oh, yeah?
Said, if you see any of that stuff, would you bring to me some? I need to mix that up. And I'm sitting there looking at, we're talking about white gasoline, and she's running in there with a gas stove.
Did she?
Hell no, I just ignored her.
Right?
And I told Bill one time, I said, Bill, she's trying to get a hold of white gasoline and camphor. I don't think you want her messing with that. She and my mother played tennis together.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, she told me all those stories.
And which would Annie Booth, would she take that white gasoline and camphor, I guess, mix it together, and then like apply it topically to people, or like rub it into them?
She didn't ever tell me, but I would guess she.
Interesting.
Did.
I wondered how they came up with that. I know that Bobby told me that University of Texas, when Bill DeBose was a football coach at UT, they used to send their players down to Gonzales to have her work on them.
Oh yeah, that's correct. That's what she told me. And I'm trying to remember. That was the Booth that lived in there was William Harvey.
William Harvey.
I believe.
W.H. Booth.
Yeah, W.H. Booth. And he lived in that house. And I think
that's who Bill's brothers was named after Uncle William, the one who was the World War I signal pilot who passed away in, I guess, 1950. Let me ask another quick question, maybe unrelated to the tour or possibly related to the tour, depending on how people ask questions, and that is, when you look at old Gonzales maps and even new Gonzales maps, they'll talk about things like the Thomas Jackson, abstract, or the George Washington Cottle.
Guy ain't even slowing down.
Yikes. Whew. I know, it's ever since they put in this new road. Well, when you look at the surveys, they'll say things like Thomas Jackson, George Washington Cottle, Joseph McCoy, and they have these like drawn out. They're usually in like irregular shapes. And these are like describing like the Sarah Seeley League, for example.
Yeah.
When you see these maps and it says something like George Washington Cottle, does that mean that's the property George Washington Cottle's original land was on?
Yeah, that's what I would think.
I would think so too.
Sarah Seeley was married to, I think to DeWitt, but I'm not sure. But all this out here was hers.
Okay.
On the left.
And so Sarah Seeley married to Green DeWitt. This is like their old Green DeWitt homestead.
It's not Green. It's not Green DeWitt. Don't repeat that.
Okay, I won't. We'll scratch that.
If I do this once a week, I do okay. But man, when I go a month,
it's okay.
We haven't had many tours. This is about the fourth tour I've had since all of it stopped.
I see. Well, thank you for your time. Are you still going to have time to show me the houses too?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Oh, yeah.
So this monument that the lady in San Antonio put together.
We're going there
okay,
right now.
Cool. I've never seen it. I think there must be.
It was originally placed down close to the dam, but when they built this, improved all this pass through here, they took it down and it was laid on the ground over here at the waterworks.
I see.
And I didn't even know it existed until Mrs. Valentine, who was the resident historian, said, "I think that thing's down there. I want you to go down there and check it."
Amazing.
We need to.
It's like the cannon sitting in the post office
That's
basement.
right.
It's like.
Okay, now look right there at the end of that.
Oh yeah, those bushes. That's it.
That's it. And we had just a little plaque put on there that said this originally was placed down close to the thing, and it said that it says there it was a buffalo crossing.
I see.
So it was also probably a crossing when people here wanted to go. It was shallow water, probably.
That's another thing I wanted to ask you. Prior to the dams built by America or like by the state of Texas, like big modern dams like Lakewood, Lake Gonzales, was the river most of the time just running? It was running, I guess, kind of low, and then during flood stage it'd be really high, or was it actually possibly running higher than it runs now
I think
regularly?
It ran a lot higher than it does now.
I see.
Vicky told me that she read something said it was, 100 yards wide or 100 feet wide or
Interesting.
something.
Well, I know that when I've researched Fort Wall, they mentioned how the Confederacy was concerned because at the time the Guadalupe was considered navigable from the coast by like small ships. And I'm wondering, like the way the Guadalupe is now, at least coming up from the coast, I don't think you could take a ship up there.
No, you couldn't do it. It was a lot bigger river.
Interesting.
They put all the things.
Okay.
This is 1895. This guy was in the lumber business.
Okay.
And he actually committed suicide in that house.
In that house.
Yeah, in that house. And this was one of the four that during the late 60s and 1960s and 70s, this one sold. And I don't know what the price on it was, but I do own a couple of the others. But it's
and that's the Kennard house. Do we know why he committed suicide? Was it?
No, I think it was just finances.
I see.
This was J.P. Randall, 1898.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the major players here.
Is that the same Randall Rather building?
This is Randall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I guess because Barbara Crozier's house is a Rather home, so maybe that they were in cahoots and living.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they were. This Episcopal church. Have you ever been in there?
I've been in the church, but I've never been in the house.
Okay, they just finished restoration of the house.
Okay.
They did a really super job. This is 1880, 81.
Okay. Wow, that building.
It's one of the oldest buildings in town.
Is that house, has it always been part of the church, or did that house used to be a residence? Or like a parsonage?
No, it was built for the minister.
Okay.
I can't remember.
Like a parsonage then?
Yeah, kind of. And
is that also 1881 vintage?
No.
Okay.
This was in 1912, I believe.
Okay.
They tore the original building house down and built that one in 1912.
Interesting. Does this house have any historic significance?
No, that was an older house.
Okay.
This one does, though. This is one of the first ones. It started in 51 and opened in 53.
Okay.
And at one point, it was just the middle part, like a rectangle.
Okay.
60.
Oh, I see.
60 by 80. Okay, and it was a women's college. We think the first 4-year women's college in the state. Maybe even in the South, we don't know. But it closed down in 85, and in 1892, an attorney bought it, and he's the one that added the east wing and the tower.
Okay, I see. East wing and tower.
Yeah. And it's been beautifully redone.
I saw where some people had suggested, this was an online video, that a portion of these bricks and stones may have come from the Fort Wall blockhouse after the Civil War, but it was just speculation.
There was a men's college behind this.
Okay.
And during the Civil War, they tore the men's college down.
Oh, I see.
And moved it out to Fort Wall.
Oh,
They never built anything with it
out
there. They gave up. That was supposed to be. It seems to me like I remember that fort was supposed to be to protect ammunition and goods and that kind of stuff, and they just never did. But they afraid the Yankees were going to come from the coast up here, and so they put that thing up. But they never really built a fort there.
I see.
But this one is
so that main part, that 60 by 80 part is
by 30. 60 by 30.
60 by 30 is 1851 to 1853.
Yeah, well, it finished in 18, and they opened it as a college in 53.
Amazing. Okay.
And this, is Crozier's house. 1892.
Is it true the news anchor Dan Rather would sometimes come here and visit his relatives?
I've heard that, but I don't know for sure. Now, Rather, Mrs. I think her name was Esther or something. Rather, she's the one that wrote the little book that we use as the Bible.
Okay.
On Gonzales, and I think it's at the. I know they have one at the chamber.
Is that what they call the Black Book? Like
No.
that big, thick county book, or is that different?
No. You talking about the Gonzales County?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's a different book.
Okay.
It's a small book.
And it's written by Mrs. Rather?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
She wrote it as a college project.
Okay. Interesting. I'll
These
look it
two
up.
are 1911, and this one's being worked on. That one over there
Mm-hmm.
has been restored, but the back part of it was added
Oh, I see.
real late.
So both this one and this one are 1911?
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah, she and her brother built that. Her husband was an
Uh-huh.
attorney, and he died before she built it. This little house has been totally restored. It's a nice. That's Frank Brazel.
Frank Brazel.
Yeah.
It's lovely. We know the people who own it, and they're great people.
Yeah. They're not the ones that restored it, though.
Okay.
A couple of guys lived there, and
Mm-hmm.
they restored it, and then left town.
Oh, I see. Does this have any historic meaningfulness, or?
I have not ever researched that house. Of course, this is the hospital.
Okay.
It's,
Is that the old Sievers Hospital?
yeah.
Okay. And we started out at the Kennard House. Is that typically where you start people out when you do the
No, I
historic
started
homes
out at
tour?
the jail.
Okay. All right. Did we ever talk about the Eggleston House or anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, did I go by that?
You did. I was talking, so.
What? No, I think it was built, I think, in 1845 by Horace Eggleston. He was from New York, and he came down here before the Revolution. And you know, back then, man, this is the house right here that this is the one that sold in 1973 for $35,000.
1973, the mansion sold for $35,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
And on the
Interesting.
Eggleston house, men married a lot older and girls married a lot younger back then.
I see.
Many times by arranged marriages. And Horace, in 1835, the year of the first shot, married 14-year-old Sarah Ponton.
Wow.
She was the niece of Andrew Ponton, who was the alcalde or mayor here during the Revolution.
And how old was Horace when this happened?
30.
30. Okay. Gotcha. 30 and 14.
This is a German World War I cannon. I was talking to a lady down at the chamber one day, and she had 5 kids with her. And I said, "Well, did you go up and see the cannon?" Yeah. I said, "We bought one of those big old flags, and we put it over there, and all the kids climbed up on top of it." I said, "I think you got the wrong cannon."
It's my understanding with that cannon that the Gonzales Guard that was sent overseas to France in World War I, that they captured that. Whit de Beauce was like, "We want a cannon in Gonzales, and we're going to bring it back." But I don't know how accurate that is.
Yeah, I don't know. I do not know. Did you hear that the deed, when they turned that over to the school, said you can do anything you want to with the building, but you can't tear down the smokestack?
No, I didn't.
That supposedly is in the deed.
Oh, wow.
That's why the smokestack is still standing.
It's still there.
Yeah.
Well, I know that people buy and trade, Gonzales bricks. They're valuable, and if someone ever got their hands on the smokestack, they would corner the brick market.
Oh, man.
They'd either see a Gonzales brick price collapse or a Gonzales brick, resurgence. or both?
No, I haven't. We've got a whole walkway made out of Gonzales brick. You could buy them for a nickel a brick when I first moved here.
Nice.
Yeah, but I haven't ever tried to really buy one or sell it, so I don't know what the market is for it. This house was redone and it looks pretty decent now.
It's nice, and I'm surprised it hasn't sold yet.
This one is 26.
This one right here?
Yeah, 1926. They wouldn't let us put a sign in their yard. That's where the mayor lives,
Okay.
Connie.
When you say a sign, you mean like a historic
sign.
homes?
Yeah, the little sign, like we put.
Oh, yeah, like it like the Potek House, 1908.
Yeah,
They won't let you put one there. That's strange. This one looks really old.
Yeah, this is 1888.
Okay.
G.W. Betts, he was, we think, a Confederate deserter.
Oh.
Didn't know that until after he died.
Interesting.
That house has changed hands several times, but somebody bought it and kind of fixed it up.
It looks nice.
So, well, shoot. Now I got to find her. I'll follow that truck.
So back in the days of the Republic, these malls that are set out in the city charter, was there anything in those malls? Were they just open to the public, or were there like, I mean...
I don't understand what you mean.
Well, I call them a mall, I guess. I remember Bob Richard talking about it, about the Gonzales at the beginning, that the way the city was laid out, that there were sections of land set out for public use.
Oh yeah,
set out for like church use, and like where that school is right there, that seems sort of like I call it a mall. Maybe it's not a mall,
but
on
North, what we call Avenue, North Avenue. We have two avenues in town. North Avenue runs 5 miles north.
Okay.
East Avenue runs 3 miles east, which is what that is.
Okay.
And then there's the 7 squares. Okay. And in 1832 city charter, all 7 squares and both avenues were reserved for public use only.
I see.
And that's the ones he's talking about, I'm sure, because then they're still that way. There are no private homes or businesses on the stalls, on the malls.
So it was almost like a park in a way, maybe?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is. And that's where all the schools, the courthouse, the jail, all of those things are, the old jail.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'll go back there. Let's see. All right. Oh, okay.
We're now sort of in my family's neck of the woods.
Yeah. I think this is 1925. No, what did that say?
I think it's 1907 maybe.
07, yeah.
Or 17. I couldn't tell. It was slightly worn out. Is there a resource for people who have the signs that have faded, where they can go to have them redone?
Historic home. We formed the Historic Homes Association in '96, and that was our first project, was to put signs, the ones that we had, in these houses. And has this been dug up? I guess it has. Oh no, there it is over there. Yeah, this is one of the. This whole block was a booth block.
Interesting.
And
so my guess is before that modern mid-century home was there would have been like an older booth relative home, maybe.
Well, we're gonna run by there. This was
Tinsley.
Yeah, it was one of the one of the Houston sons, I think, lived in that house.
Prior to the Tinsley, then, or?
No, you're right. No, the Tinsleys built. The mothers built it for
Oh.
One of the Tinsleys.
I see.
They wanted him to move back down here and take care of the ranch for them.
Okay. That's a nice gift.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, back then, when girls got married, many times the parents built houses for them.
Mm-hmm.
Now this guy, he was from North Carolina and was one of the Booths,
Okay.
I believe.
Booth House.
Yeah. Doesn't it?
They have a sign, but I know they've been doing work on it. I
That's
bet they.
J.R. Booth. J.H. Booth. J.R. Booth. It's up there on the porch to the left of the door.
Oh, okay, I see it.
Yeah, it's 1913. Now this right here, well, here's Florence's house, you know, and she's the one that told me that the guy that lived in here, I can't remember.
I think it's George Jefferson Booth had that house.
It is.
And she always told me as a kid that house is older than most people think it is.
Yeah, because if you look, let's see if they've done anything to it. Used to. I'm turning around just a minute, just a legal. George Jefferson Booth had a grocery store, and he sent out his. Now this is Florence.
Okay.
Sent out his grocery bills once a year. He'd watch, and when they came back from a cattle drive or harvest, he knew they had money, so he'd send them back. And one time, one of the Fly brothers took exception to his grocery bill, so he stormed into George Jefferson's store, which was down there on one of the squares, and demanding, and an argument broke out, and that led to a gunfight, and the Fly brother was killed.
Wow.
And so they charged George, and he went through, I think, a couple of trials, but he got it moved, and they got him. They said he was innocent, so he came back. But if you look at that window that has a 715 on it,
Let's see it. Yes.
okay, look up above that and just a little to the left. You see that line across there above that? It's a little lower than the top of the window. There's look like a crack that runs across there. It's above that sign.
So it's above the 715 sign.
Yes.
The one that's on the window frame.
Then out to the left.
Okay.
I
think I can kind of see something. Yeah, I see it now. It almost looks like a shadow, maybe.
See, that's where the original door was.
Oh.
Okay.
Yes.
And the back of it has all square nails. But I never could figure out when it was built. The Booths bought it in they came here in 1856 from North Carolina, and he bought this house in the 70s.
Okay. So he wasn't the first person to live here.
Now his sons.
Do you know where he was living when they came in 1856? Were they living in like a little cabin over here, or living?
They would have been. Yes, I don't know where they would have lived. This was his daughter, Mary Fleda.
Okay.
And she married C.J. Pilgrim, and they built. George Jefferson and his wife gave them this lot.
Okay.
They also, but they didn't give the boys lots. The son had a house on the other corner, on both corners, on the other side of the block.
You mean on the other side of this block they had the home?
Yeah. What J what was it?
W.H.
He was there, and the son that got killed in the gunfight.
That's Tom Booth.
Tom Booth, yeah.
The shootout with the Houstons.
Yeah.
I was told by Charles Chenault before he passed away that he remembers when Tom Booth's house burned in the late 50s.
Oh, really?
It was over here over off College Street where that trailer park is now. He said they were coming in from Shiner. They'd been at a dance, and he saw a big glow coming from town. And he said that where that trailer park is now, that had been the home of Tom Booth. It
Oh,
was very
really?
old at the time, sort of decrepit, built
Yeah.
of wood, of course, and had somehow caught on fire and just was like
Oh,
went
it
up like
wouldn't
a
last.
Roman candle, you know?
Yeah, I can believe it. I can believe it. WH, no, that's not right. This is Houston. WB Houston. He and his first wife designed this house, and she died in childbirth. And about 6 years later, he remarried, and his second wife was an artist who studied in Europe.
I see.
And he married her, and they got the plans out and built this house.
Okay.
So,
Do we know where they got the plans from? Would it have been like an architectural magazine?
oh yeah, oh no, have you heard of J. Riley Gordon?
I have.
Okay, he did several of these houses in town,
I see.
and
He's the one that did the courthouse, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know that I ever heard who built this house.
I see.
If I did, it's in the book. But
Okay. Well, Daisy has given me those books to read. I mean, obviously I have this book that I've had forever, since the 80s I've read before. And she just gave me Vicky's book to read, Hope, Death, and Heroes,
yeah,
as well as the new book called Spirit, which is about Sid and his family coming to Gonzales and their interactions with George Davis,
okay.
which is pretty compelling. When George Davis appears on the scene in the book, I got a little choked up,
That's
actually.
right.
I was like sort of like a person coming to life, you know?
Yeah. Now this thing, John Fouth and his wife came down here and built this, and he built one of the stores on the other side of the block, which
Okay.
is on St. Paul Street. And he made furniture and I think coffins and all kind of stuff. But they tore that building. They tore his original building down. The brick building is still there that he built.
I see. But you're saying there was another building prior to the brick building?
behind this house.
Oh, I see. Was that torn down like recently, or torn down like eons ago?
Long ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, we got a few. I don't know that we'll make them all, but we're going to make a big chunk of
When
it.
you take people out for a tour, do you give them an amount of time it usually takes to give it to them? I realize most tour participants aren't the new chamber hire asking a million questions, but I guess in some cases they may ask more. I don't know.
Some of them do.
Mhm.
Some of them ask more. I usually, particularly if they're interested in history, I think they probably would rather go to the First Shot Battleground and Sam Houston Oak
Okay.
and the Broncos House than to see an extra 20 houses here in town. But I kind of give them their choice, and normally they choose something. It's about a 2-hour tour.
Okay. Understood.
But now Leon,
Mhm.
he'd take them on a 10-minute tour if they get in his car.
Oh, gotcha. Was he just like, this is the nickel tour?
That's right.
Okay.
He'd tell them, yeah, well, I can give you a 30-minute tour.
Mm-hmm. This is a treat being able to ride with you today, Paul.
Good.
Truly.
Well, I hope you enjoy it. It's a fun town to show off.
Hope I learn as much as I can, and I'm taking notes. And
I'm sure glad that you bought that house over there and take care of it.
Well, thank you. I'll show you. We actually prepared a booklet about the house from information we got from the family.
Yeah.
I'll drop it by your house sometime so you can look through it. I think you'll like it.
I wish that you would make copies of whatever they gave you.
Okay.
And put it out in the archives.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
We've made digital copies.
Yeah.
We just haven't printed them, but we can print them.
Oh, okay. We got to pull over. This house.
And for what it's worth, too, the woman, her name is Jackie Patek. She's married to Rocky Patek. They're like in their 60s, and she called us a couple of months ago while this whole COVID thing was going on. We told her we were out of town handling a family matter in Georgia.
Yeah.
But she said she had something that would, quote, knock our socks off she wanted to give us. And we told her we were in Georgia at the time, and she said, well, how about we just wait till COVID blows over, and she lives in Victoria.
Yeah.
Next time I'm up from Victoria, I'll give it to you. So that's all we know. We don't know what that means.
Wow.
She's very secretive.
Yeah.
I mean, secretive in that regard. The day that it came for the home tour, when they had the stack for us, we were just blown away. They've got a picture of, like, the Patek boys playing out in the front yard.
Oh, my.
Where
What
there's
a treasure.
It's like it's before they've stuccoed the house, and you can see, like, the concrete block work, and the boys are playing, like, in a field of lilies, and it's just something we weren't expecting.
Goodness. Yeah, that's right. This is a 1912 house built.
It's so beautiful.
Did we go by R.S. Dilworth with marble? So we didn't go by.
No,
with
we
marble
haven't.
Steps.
Is that Dilworth house? Are those two people related? I assume.
They're brothers.
Okay,
Their father was one of the first bankers here,
I see.
and when he died, they inherited the bank, which was the one down on the corner where the Italian food place is now.
Okay, that's
And,
right.
Yeah, and then it went under in '37.
Okay,
And this guy sold this and moved out of here. But when we moved here in '94, this thing was empty. It'd been empty for 20 years.
I see.
And Ross Booth would come down every once in a while and
Mhm.
spend the night in it.
You remember one night we were here in the 70s, and Ross had come up from Houston, and he invited Mom and Bobby over, and he played the piano for us that he claimed was one of these pianos that had been buried.
Yeah, I could.
And he was wearing like a I don't know, this fun little costume he was in, and he was handing out like M&Ms to me. He said,
Yeah.
Brad, you can have as many M&Ms as you want. My mama said, you'll get sick. And Ross said, eat them up. So I ate them up, and I was my tummy was upset afterwards. But I remember he was playing piano in there, and he was telling us these historical artifacts he had from the pioneer days. It's just, that's based on some 40-year memory that I just unfortunately don't remember better. I wish I knew it.
His ancestors were on the runaway scrape. That was tough times.
And was his ancestors, because you mentioned how the Booths, or at least George Jefferson Booth, came to Gonzales in 1856.
Yeah.
Would his runaway scrape ancestors have been, I guess, on his mother's side, or was it there was another Booth contingent that came here even prior to 1856?
I can't answer that.
That's fine.
I don't know. I do not know.
I bet
But
it's his
this
mama's
thing-
side.
When the hospital out in
Warm Springs.
Yeah. They bought this place and converted it to quarters for their doctors and nurses.
That's nice.
Yeah, and then they eventually sold it, and it changed hands a bunch of times.
I
But
see.
it was in great shape, and these guys bought it, and now one of them recently, a couple of years ago, died. He was a young guy. He went in for minor surgery and died.
Oh, that's terrible.
But now it's a B&B.
It's
And
beautiful.
it's well cared for. Yeah.
And it's old, too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was this Dilworth house built before the brothers Dilworth house, or were they built about like the same time?
About the same, yeah.
Any news on this one right
Now
here?
that one, we had a large Jewish community here.
Okay.
And this one is Coconut, one of the Coconuts.
And they're a Jewish family? Okay.
LM, he and his father, David, was a rascal.
Okay.
They came from, what's a Jewish country? I can't remember. But anyway, they came over here and came
Like
in.
Poland?
No, it's, I hate that. I'm going to have to go back and get my book out and sleep with it. They came over to here from Holland.
Okay.
Okay, and when it came in through New Orleans, and he was born in New Orleans, and then he got into all kind of financial problem. Everybody from Holland and Louisiana was looking for his dad, and they came over here and set up a ranch out here about 10 miles towards Shiner. And they were one of the first cattle drivers. They drove them, I think, to New Mexico. I think is where they drove them to. But he married and had a big house out there in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And his first wife died, and he remarried, and the second wife was part of the part of Dilworth family.
Okay.
And they brought
Like the Bank
her mother.
family.
They didn't want her mother
Mhm.
staying out there by herself after he died. So they built this house for her mother and moved her into town, and they put her there because that was right next to her daughter.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Let me ask you this, Paul. This may be the $1 million question. We know that in the 1820s and 30s, people were coming to Gonzales because it was free land. This time, though, around the turn of the last century, it seems like there was a lot of opulent wealth coming to Gonzales. Where was it that Gonzales was like popping up on the radar, so to speak, for people to be like in, 1905 going, you know what, I'm going to move to Gonzales, Texas. Why move here and not Houston or Dallas or Austin or...
Well, I don't really know. It was cheap land, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
It was still cheap land. And
I'm sure they were just having communication from people.
I don't know when the first oil took place
Mm-hmm.
here.
I see.
So, but I don't want to try to answer that.
No,
I'm
it's
not
fine.
Sure.
It's okay.
This house was sold in 1975 for $25,000.
No.
Was.
I bet that house is $1 million now.
Oh yeah, but not in Gonzales. It's not.
Yeah.
If it were in Austin, it would be, or San Antonio.
And so the Matthews, are they like a ranching family?
Yes, they were cattle barons.
Mm. Awesome. Tell me about Joel's house.
This guy actually had a ranch out between here and Shiner.
Matthews or your family?
No, this family.
Okay.
Here. And when we drove up to this thing, Vicky always wanted an old house. It didn't have any gingerbread, didn't no porch railings, and the posts were square, kind of tapered.
Okay.
Posts rotted.
I see.
The porch was hanging off and rotten. And we went in there with the realtor,
Mm-hmm.
and it had shag carpet with fleas.
Wow.
It'd been empty for 2 years.
It's beautiful.
After we looked, it had long dark drapes in it. It was pretty pitiful. Vicky, right in front of the realtor, she turned to me and said, "This is my house."
I love it. I love it. That's great. That makes me happy.
We put we didn't put the gingerbread on there, but we put a square post railing because that's all we knew. We couldn't find a picture of it. About 5 years later, Vicky answered the phone, and it was J.W. Bailey's granddaughter from Dallas.
Amazing.
And she drove down here and brought us a picture of it when it was first built.
Amazing.
We took that to a guy north of San Antonio, and he rebuilt all that stuff.
Amazing. And I see you'll have the historical marker on it. Was that on it prior to you being there?
No, I had that put on it.
And by having that, obviously that's a huge benefit, having that on your home. Have you seen, has that caused like your taxes to raise or put you on any kind of...
It doesn't, you can't get loans on it. It doesn't improve anything.
I see. It's just a nice thing to have.
Yeah, that's all. We just wanted to start promoting Gonzales, and we've been pretty lucky.
I love it.
This was R.S. Dilworth, first house. His in-laws lived right down there in that house.
Okay. That white one on the corner?
Yeah, on the corner. And he married their daughter, and they gave them 2 lots here. Their property goes all the way through the block.
I see.
And it was a trying to think of the style of house. It wasn't great revival.
Okay. So they modified it
like
then.
a Victorian.
Oh, I see.
Yes, they modified it. Everybody in that area, in that time frame, they liked these type of houses. And I don't, the porch, it just doesn't look right to me.
Okay.
And the door, see that? Can you see that stained glass there in the
I
window?
can.
Okay, that was where the original door was.
Oh, I see.
And you walk in there, and there were huge pillars on the right-hand side going back to the stairs. Okay? And now, when they changed it, that's one whole room. So you walk in there, in the middle of the room are these big pillars going up, which doesn't fit. But they sold this house, the Houston did, and built that big one over there.
I see.
I'll take you by that. Now this house, one of the most interesting in town, has, first of all, the most beautiful staircase of anybody. Big curved staircase that goes up to the second floor. And the German artisans who built this had animal head molds.
Bowls?
Molds.
Okay.
And he would take the sawdust, mix it with an adhesive, put it in there, and when it came out, he'd stain them, and they're still mounted on the door facing.
Interesting. Fascinating. I've never heard of that. And is that, it looked like it said on the sign, is it the Joseph House?
No, it's
It's okay. I'll look in the book.
Yeah, you'll see it in there. I tell Vicki every time I get through with this, dadgum, I gotta go back to school. This house just sold.
That's the old Traeger house.
Yeah.
Florence told me that one time she went over there to see Mr. Traeger's wife, and that Mr. Traeger had been friends with Tex Ritter.
Yeah.
He's his college roommate at UT, and my mom, Carolyn, was over there, and Tex Ritter actually came out of the house. He'd been over there with Mr. Traeger, and Mom saw it was Tex, and she got all embarrassed.
Oh.
Said she hid under Meemaw's shawl because there was the famous Tex Ritter just in Gonzales.
Yeah, Leon met him when he was down here and did a deal. And Leon was also when Elvis came through town.
Okay, cool.
Now this house here was the first Greek Revival house built.
I see, in Gonzales.
In Gonzales. And I don't know, you probably don't remember how it was, but it was just almost falling down.
I do remember when it was just abandoned looking.
Yeah, and this they struck oil, and they've had it's empty. They've had offers to buy it, and they won't sell it. And it's a sad state.
Is that person who built that Greek Revival house, were they like a famous Gonzales like businessman or merchant, or?
Yeah, they were. He was an attorney.
Okay.
And I got to get off of this guy here. Let him by. Have you been into the gun collection?
I have. It's amazing.
Isn't it?
I've never seen so many guns put together by just a person.
That guy.
What's the story on that?
He'd been gathering them for 50 years. He was in Vicky's class.
Okay.
And we used to have, until this mess started, we used to have a luncheon every month. And Charlie was about as round as he was tall.
I see.
And that was his life.
I see. The gun
The
collection.
gun collection.
What did he do for a living? What was his line of work?
I don't know. He lived in Houston, I think, when he was working. But I don't know what he did for a living. But he spent all of his time on the internet buying guns.
Amazing.
And I counted them when they first opened that thing. I counted there was, I think, 150 pistols out of 48 countries.
Wow.
in there. And
That's a lot of.
you have to kind of be careful. I mean, not careful, but to look just right. You know, if you've been in there, if you have,
Mhm.
you've seen the way they're cased. But if you kind of lean up to the glass and look up, a lot of the country's names are
Okay.
up there. It kind of hid them with the way they.
Well, it's got to be pretty unique that a public library has a gun collection in it.
Yeah.
And, for that to be in Gonzales is unique.
That's where the old safety deposit boxes was in where that deal is when they moved. Vicky was when we had those luncheons. We had one time, and all the women would get on one side, and all the guys would sit over here. And Vicky said, "I got to do." She's president of the library board. She said, "I got to do something to get a new library. That one's falling down."
Mm-hmm.
And Barbara Joe, anyway, one of the ladies, she looks like a bag lady,
Okay.
said, "Well, how much would it cost?" And Vicky had no idea. But she said, "I think probably about $2 million."
Mm-hmm.
The lady said, "Well, I can handle that."
Oh yeah, nice. You're like, let's do it.
And she did.
Wrote a
And
check.
about that time, that
Mhm.
thing came up for sale, and they bought it for $1.4 million,
Amazing.
and then used the rest of it to set the library up.
I wonder who hatched the idea that, hey, we've got a big big vault now, bank vault. That'd be a perfect place to house a gun collection.
Well, we knew Charlie was looking for a place because
Mhm.
he was well into his 70s, I guess. But anyway, he was looking. We knew he was looking for a place to put it.
Mm-hmm.
And when she started looking at buying that thing, she went to Charlie and told him, said, "Charlie, we may have a place for you to put your guns."
I love it.
And he gave us a 20-year, I'd not say lease. It wasn't. We don't pay anything, but
Mm-hmm.
he put that in there, and it's there to stay for 20 years.
Amazing. And then when they're done with the guns, did he
We don't know
specify
what's
where they
gonna
go?
happen.
I see.
No. He really didn't have any close family,
Mm-hmm.
but
Well, that's unique then. It's definitely time to go visit for people before it goes away. Unless he put some clause in there that it automatically renews.
Oh yeah, we didn't want to, because it was expensive getting that set up, those cabinets,
I bet.
all that stuff.
I've seen the way it's all put together, and
Now this, you've always seen that weather vane up there.
I have.
And when we moved here, it looked like that it was copper. It was kind of
Okay.
yucky green.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't turn. Somebody'd shot it,
Yikes.
and we had a guy. The city had a guy working on the monument on the other side of this,
Mm-hmm.
the Confederate monument. He called Vicky. I don't know whether you knew Everett Deschner or not, but he lived here for a long
know
time.
him.
He lives over now on Canyon Lake. But he called Vicky and said, "Go over there and ask that guy how much he'd charge to restore that."
Mm-hmm.
So she came down here and talked to him, and he wound up restoring it for $10,000.
Amazing.
And that's because that is truly a very, very thin layer of gold on it.
Wow.
And the lady who was a resident historian here when I moved here, she told me that's gold on that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, yeah, right.
Right, exactly.
We got a bunch of drunk down there.
Crazy.
So, okay.
All right.
Now, next time, maybe we'll run out. Have you ever been out to the Broncos house?
You know what? I went out there probably back when Florence was still alive.
Yeah.
It was, I think, shortly after the Johnsons had either purchased it or they started to work on it. It
Yeah.
was the last time I was in there. I remember we were in there and looking around, and it was very Spartan and looked very abandoned. But Mrs. Johnson was there telling us she had plans to fix it up. But this was realistically 25 years ago, I think.
Okay. And that's about when we came here.
Okay.
And Vicky knew it was out there, and we drove out there, and it was falling down.
Mm-hmm. Have they done some work on it?
Oh yeah, a lot. Now when they bought that place, that area, the family wouldn't sell I think it was 10 acres that had the house and the cemetery.
Okay.
Had the family cemetery on it, and so.
And when you say the family wouldn't sell it, you mean the Johnsons, or the Johnsons were trying to buy it?
Didn't own it.
Okay.
But the family would not. The family who owned it, I think, or Kennard, I believe, or Kennedy, I can't remember. But anyway, they wouldn't sell it. So that's okay. But the Johnsons pumped a ton of money in that house, not even owning it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. And they just, I guess the Kennedys or whoever it was let them do that. They're like, if you want to do it, we're not going to stop you.
Care. So then Jane thought that it would be a big draw of visitors, but it was too far out, and so they kind of dropped it, and it kind of went downhill again. Not as bad, but because they moved stone from the Marrin Quarry, which is where the original stone came from. They had it moved over and redid the foundation.
I see.
Okay, so
is that mining quarry local to Gonzales?
Yeah,
I asked because you've never seen it, but there used to be a Victorian house on Mom and Bobby's place out here by J.B. Wells. There was a Victorian house on the river. It was a very small Victorian house where one of my grandfather's workers worked for his pecan orchard, and Meemaw Florence had that torn down in the 80s. Her whole take was she's going home to be with the Lord and wanted to clean the place up.
Yeah.
And they tore down this home. It wasn't very big. It was probably 1,400 square feet. But what they left there, and it's still there to this day, are these enormous quarry mined like stones that are like this by this. And you can tell they've been cut by some type of implement.
I don't know how they did it.
And I wonder if it came from this place you mentioned, because it had to come from somewhere
near,
and
probably.
And it's like an 1800. It was an 1800 structure.
Well, this the rock in the college, I think much of that came from out there at that quarry.
Is this quarry still in operation, or is it defunct?
No, it's been out for years.
How far is it from town, you think? A couple miles, or?
Yeah, I think it's all on private property
I see.
now.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's it's probably halfway between here and Shiner.
Okay.
Kind of way back off the road.
Fascinating. One other question I want to ask you. The Brockes family, that house was built, I think, around the 1850s. Had
1843.
They were they here during like the runaway scrape too?
Yes. What I'm trying to think of her name. She married Dadgum.
Well,
she married in Tennessee.
Okay.
In 1829, and she and her husband came over here, and they took their league of land out there, and had a cabin. And that was a main trail from the coast back up into this area. And damn, starting to.
You've been talking a long time. It's okay.
Anyway,
so to maybe kind of feed your thoughts on it a little bit. So when Sam Houston organized the Texas Army underneath that big oak out there, it wasn't like it was just some random oak tree in the woods. It was on the Brockes family property,
no,
I would assume.
It wasn't Brockes. I don't know whether it's in there or not. If it is, it'll be up in front, because it's not in the city limits. It's not on there, I don't think.
You're saying it'll just be like...
Yeah, right at the end of that stuff, I think.
Like in here?
No, keep going. No, I don't think it's in there. Because it wasn't in the city.
I see.
I'm trying to... Bart McClure.
Okay.
It was the McClure land.
Interesting.
And he and his wife met in and he was in the Battle of Gonzales. What do you need?
My pen, but I must have dropped. Oh, it's right here.
Oh,
Bart McClure.
Yeah, Bart McClure. If I sit here long enough, his wife's name will float through.
Mm-hmm.
But he was in the Battle of Gonzales, and then he died in 1842.
Mm-hmm.
And she remarried Charles Brockus.
Oh, I see.
Okay, and they tore the cabin down and replaced it with the house that's out there now.
I see. So when Sam Houston was organizing the Texas Army, it was basically...
he didn't organize it there.
Okay.
He stopped there.
I see.
The first night of the runaway scrape. He came into town and was training guys down
Mm-hmm.
here, trying to get them trained.
Mm-hmm.
But when they left, they wound up out there the next morning. They left here on the 13th and wound up out there on the 14th
Mm-hmm.
early in the morning, and stopped to eat and whatever. And that's where the women caught up to him.
I see.
And then he started on up and went up to LaGrange right there and crossed at Burnham's Ferry. But dang, I can't. And she was a major player in the runaway scrape with the women. Sarah Ann Ashby. See, I told you to float through this.
You're great.
Sarah Ann Ashby. I wouldn't do much on one of those programs on TV where whoever rings the buzzer first gets the answer.
Yeah, but you've got the correct info though. Sarah Ann Ashby.
Sarah Ann Ashby. So she was Sarah Ann Ashby, Bart McClure, and then Charles Brockus.
Amazing.
He may have been, I don't know, something. I keep wanting to say he played music or did something with music, but yeah, I love doing this. I like it better when it all just flows nice, but I hadn't got back there yet.
And I guess the way this will work in the future is if someone calls us at the chamber office and they say we want to have the historical homes and buildings tour with Paul, then we just get on the phone and say, well, we'll call him up and arrange what time he can do it. And
that's right.
Is it ever there ever a situation where it's like a same day kind of thing, or is it usually planned out in the future?
Well, of course, it's better if they plan it out. You're going a week ahead or 2 weeks ahead, and but if I'm not doing anything, I don't. It's not. And I tell everybody, unless Vicki has me doing something important, then I'll do the tour.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Paul, thank you so much.
You bet.
Been a
thank you for
privilege
coming, and I'm pleased that you're getting involved in Gonzales. So.
I love it. Well, I've been waiting. I told them when they interviewed me, I was like, I've been waiting for the right thing. I didn't want to just pick anything. I'm fortunate that I could sort of pick and choose, and this is something that was in my wheelhouse.
Good.
And Daisy chose to pick me, and the board, which is great.
Well, I tell you,
So I want to make you proud. I want to make my uncle proud. I told Bobby today. I tell Jeannie on the phone. Tell Jeannie when you see her that Dave Walshak's Memorial Award winners and her first husband.
Yeah.
Dave Walshak's awards are right over my shoulder, so I feel like I've got the family, watching me.
That's right.
I was like, there's no room for failure, and Meemaw and Pawpaw. I mean, of course, they're deceased, but I want to do them right too. I want to do my whole family right. So,
what brought you back to Gonzales?
Well, I told a gentleman named Adrian who came in today to do some volunteer work with the chamber. His family is tied with the Gonzales Meat Market.
Yeah.
And I know this girl Lisa, who I'm married to now, and we've been friends for a long time. And I was living and working out of North Austin in the Georgetown area, and I knew Lisa from some friends of mine back in Georgia. I actually met Lisa the very first time in the year 2000 at a Sunday school class in Georgia many, many moons ago, and she's friends with some of my best friends. Well, the point is her and some of those friends once came out to Texas to visit. They liked it. And then one time Lisa was like, we kind of enjoyed each other's company.
Yeah.
And Lisa's like, what if I come out to Gonzales sometime and visit, during my spring break, and you can kind of show me around. And I showed her around, and she fell in love with the Gonzales scene. And, she knew that my family had land here, and we had some family in the area, and I took her to Gonzales Meat Market, and they gave us the back room tour of the smoking pits.
Yeah.
We've got this great picture of me and Lisa and Richard from Gonzales Meat Market, and we're standing by one of the pits, and they're like flipping the sausages, and Lisa's got this big beaming smile on her face. And because
I like their sausage.
Mama was always like, and Mima was like, it's going to be hard finding a non-Gonzales girl who wants to live in Gonzales.
Yeah.
Potentially. I mean, they were just, of course, saying that. I mean, I know lots of non-Gonzales girls who love Gonzales, but Lisa, I think, kind of fell in love with Gonzales that day, and we kept in communication over the years, and when an opportunity came up where we could move to Gonzales, Lisa's work allows her to telecommute and work from home, even prior to COVID happening.
Yeah.
She was like, Brad, what if we moved down to Gonzales and moved down there?
Very good. She said, well, I don't know.
Right? Yeah. And look for the right opportunity for you, to go to work, and we'll build our home and make our living in Gonzales and embed ourselves there with those people and make our home here. So that's how it all turned out.
It's a great town except for the politics.
So anyway, I'm sure I'll see you again soon.
Oh yeah.
Tell Vicki I'm reading her book, and I love the fact that the book has details on all the members of the Immortal 32 and others, and it's been fascinating for sure. I got a lot to
anytime
go
you
on.
Want to go, or if your wife wants to go, or whatever, I've got the sole key to the Brockes house.
Oh yes, great.
Right through the gate.
Well, Lisa was telling me today, she said, I told her that we might go by the Brockes house. We may not go by the Brockes house. And she said, Brad, I've never been in the Brockes house. And the only time I've ever been by it was that first time I came to visit like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I'll tell her that if you don't mind giving us the private tour over there.
You bet.
I don't know if I can shake your hand because of COVID.
Well, we can both wash our hands when we get home.
When Mom's been in Romberg House, so Stacy Zella, who runs that place over there, has us following all the instructions so we can come in and visit her like once a week.
Now, who is? Tell me who she is. I just want. When you said, I didn't know who exactly you were talking about when you said
Stacy.
Yeah.
Or my mother. My mom is Carolyn Booth Cox.
Yeah.
So Bobby's sister.
Yes. Her husband was the airplane pilot.
Mm-hmm. He was an airplane pilot and an engineer and a bright fellow, and came down with Parkinson's disease in 2006, and then fell in the kitchen in 10. No, I'm sorry, December of 11. You know what? Actually, this is so interesting. I may get a little emotional here. Let me look at my phone. He fell on December the 2nd, which is today, of 2011.
Wow.
And that's when he basically, suffered severe brain injury and left us and was in a nursing home for 4 years, and then he died. So it's who would have ever thought, that when that tragic event happened 9 years ago, someone would tell me 9 years later I'd be a chamber employee sitting here with Paul Frenzel post historic tour at Gonzales. I would have told him at that moment of grief would have been like, what is this? So I've been blessed.
Well, we've never regretted moving here. Never, not for. I don't know what I'd have done if we'd stayed in Oklahoma. I'd have gone nuts, I think, because I hated history. I hated it. And,
that's surprising. You, if anything, I'd say you're the ambassador of Gonzales history.
well, actually, what happened is my wife was still teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was free during the day. When she left for work, I was on my own. Well, she took care of that in about 6 months.
Nice.
she said, I want a marker on
Uh-huh.
my house. And I spent about 6 months driving back and forth to the archives in Austin
Mm-hmm.
and figured out when it was built.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got hooked on it.
I love it.
Wound up doing the houses and everything. But anyway.
Great.
I've enjoyed it probably every bit as much as you may hope. I hope you did. But
I did.
it's nice getting somebody that is really interested in the history of it.
Without question.
It's fascinating.
It's amazing. It's amazing that all that happened and went down here, and that sort of that pioneering spirit, and those 32 men going off to the Alamo knowing that they may never come back. And
That's right.
Gonzales being left without like senior male leadership after the fall of the Alamo, or being left with a lot less of it. It's just
those people were tough, especially the women. You know, I mean, I tell everybody the men were out hunting and fishing and trying to support the family with meat, and the wife is taking 5 kids, taking care of 5 or 10 kids, and gardens and animals and ironing and clothes, and God, they had to be tough.
Yeah, I love it. What a great legacy. We'll carry that banner forward and let everyone know that story.
That's right.
Is a friend of mine who's one of Dad's friends. He was a radio voice at the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets for 50 years. He always told me, he said, you know, Brad, he goes, I broadcast games for Georgia Tech on Saturdays, and the rest of the time I'm singing and selling Georgia Tech. Everywhere I go, I'm just telling the story about Georgia Tech, and people are, sending money our way, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be out singing and selling Gonzales, which I've already been doing, but now even more so in my chamber role.
Sure.
And so it's, I told Daisy when I walked in here on day one, I said, so you're telling me I get to work in the jail with you? Not that I have to, I get to.
That's right.
Not many people get to say that. All right, Paul.
Okay.
Tell Vicky I said hello, and
will.
I'll tell Lisa about your offer about the Brockes house, and we'll find a time that's good.
Or a tour or whatever.
Okay.
It doesn't make any difference.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. You're clear.